The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's lava. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the goals cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. And they ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm about wow, you can hear from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
Welcome to Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by Belly Up Sports Media Network. I'm your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow hosts, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson. What's up, fellas?
Happy Tuesday. We're back. Long time no see.
What's good, Steve?
Not much. Back after a long stint, but here.
Yeah, we did a boxing show in between, but as far as like the MMA side of things, this feels like forever. I mean, it's probably the first time in a while they just skipped September for a pay-per-view. I don't know if I've ever remember them doing that besides like I think the when they canceled with Jones like 10 or so years ago, they skipped September, but deliberately on purpose, they just skipped a whole month. It's crazy.
Yeah, maybe during COVID or something they might have skipped something, but yeah, I don't remember going this long.
Yeah, they didn't skip shit during COVID. Dana White said, I ain't shutting anything down, no matter if people are dying. they were all on deck with COVID. But yeah, it's been a minute. It seems like forever. But what you been up to, Admire, since we last been chilling out?
Busy as shit, taking care of the house, enjoying the weather. You know, it's still warm here in Missouri. Baseball, get my baseball watching in while the Royals were playing. They're done now. So playoffs start today. So I've been watching baseball all day, just enjoying life, man.
Who's in the wild card?
The wild card today, we had Boston actually just beat the Yankees as we started the show. The Cubs played today. They beat San Diego, I believe. San Diego lost, I know that. And then Cleveland played today. Right now, you got Los Angeles Dodgers playing Cincinnati. Who did Cleveland play earlier? Cleveland played somebody.
It's almost that time of year, my favorite part of the year, where it's the sports eclipse, where you have all 5 like major sports that go on at the same time once basketball and hockey get going.
Yeah, hockey's firing up. I had my hockey fantasy hockey draft on Sunday. So yeah, all the sports are firing up. It was the Detroit Tigers. They played Cleveland today.
How are points scored in like fantasy hockey?
All kinds. You got goals, you got assists, you got hits, you got your goalies that have the saves, save percent, wins, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a lot of points, and they play, I think, like 80 games a year or 60 or 80 games. So there's a lot of games. So you're setting lineups every day. There's always hockey games going on. So you got to be on top of it. It's not like football where you're setting it, for Sunday, Monday, Thursday. It's every day setting it.
That's how fantasy baseball is. This is the first year I didn't do fantasy baseball in forever, and I didn't do fantasy basketball last year. I don't even know if I'm gonna do it this year, but yeah, fantasy baseball, you got to do your lineups every day, and fantasy basketball is like that. Depending on what league you're in, you could be in a weekly league where you set your lineup once, or like one of those daily leagues, like you said, which is a lot to keep up with. Which I prefer the weekly, like football, but fantasy baseball was the first out of all the fantasy sports, so everybody is molding themselves after that. But
yeah, and then we're not too far off. We're gonna have that online gambling here in Missouri pretty soon, so that's gonna be firing up here pretty soon. I think they said 1st of December.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be even sooner than that.
Yeah, I heard December, but I figured they'll probably try to get it sooner than that, because with football going and all the, like we just said, all the sports are fired up. They're missing out on the money. They passed it last year. They said, legalize it in 2025. So every day that they don't have it, they're missing out on money. I live right here in St. Joe, right on the border of Kansas and Missouri, and people drive right across the bridge and get their bets in every day. There's a dollar store right across the bridge in that parking lot every day is full of people putting in their bets.
Yeah, they're gonna make a lot of money off of it. You gonna dabble with it a little bit, Steve, as far as those betting apps?
I wish I might, but I ain't never gambled in my life. I do want to try it one time, at least for sports or a casino some way. Who knows? First time luck, maybe.
It's a bad habit, so I don't advise you to pick it up. But I went on a little. This is like in 2022. It was like coming off the pandemic where I was doing like a lot of UFC bets, and I wasn't winning, so I just quit cold turkey. I'm like, fuck this. I'm tired of losing money. I was doing it like on the offshore sites, and yeah, it's called Lady Luck for a reason. Like either you hit or you miss. So I'm sure you'll put a few bets in there, Admire, once they get.
Yeah, I mean, especially with my picks, man, I've done pretty good this year, and there's a lot of them that if I would have, parlayed them, I would have done pretty well because even though we do picks because we have to pick every fight of the main card, there's some I wouldn't actually bet on. I'd probably do like a 3-fight parlay where I would have hit, would have done real well, and when. Next year, I'm definitely going to bet on baseball. I'll probably do like a $5 10-teamer every day just to try to get lucky, just try to hit a big one every day with some baseball. But I'll definitely be betting on fights, definitely be betting on boxing just to make it more fun and interesting. I like going to the casinos. I like having a little fun with it.
I think that's the way to go. Some people like putting all of their chips in the middle of the table and like going for the big bets. I think it's good. Like you put a little money to the side, just make small bets here and there and like kind of build like a little betting fund and just let it grow and keep doing smart picks and letting it build up from here and there. That's when I went to Vegas. That was like my strategy, just like betting on like red or betting on even. And like, if I lose, double down and just have it keep continuously grow smaller, but like bit by bit and building it up like that instead of just putting it all on one number and making smart bets. So it's strategy behind it, even though it is luck. It is a little bit of strategy behind it, but
yeah, and it's crazy though, man. I get on Reddit and I look at the gambling subreddit on there. There's dudes that are just wild with their betting. Like they're up in the middle of the night gambling on like German potato sack racing and just like anything you can bet on. Like people just they get addicted real quick, man. Like I could never get to that point. Like they just bet on any kind of sport you can. They'll be up in the middle of the night betting on soccer and horse racing that's happening overseas. Like it gets out of control.
Yeah, when you're betting on potato sack racing, that's how you know when you have a problem and you need to get help. And yeah, it can get bad. People literally commit suicide of being in gambling debt. So it's, even though it's not a physical addiction, it's definitely an addiction. But
yeah, that's on Reddit too, man. There's a gambling addiction subreddit, man. There's people on there that talk about losing like their life savings and retirement. There was a dude that posted yesterday. I read it. He fucking gambled away $500,000. His whole retirement, $500,000, gambled it away.
Once it's like a snowball. Like once you start losing, you just think you could get it all back. I'll get it back the next time, and it just keeps happening and keep happening. And by the time you know, poof, your 500K retirement is gone.
Chasing that high. Ooh, boy.
So anybody in Missouri that starts betting, make sure you do it responsibly. Once it goes,
yeah, what's
live.
that number? 888 bets off.
Yeah, so make sure, especially with, like you said, sports in full effect, and we got a big combat sports weekend going on. So this will be like a hybrid show. We'll be previewing a little bit of bare-knuckle and MMA, but like we always do on these preview shows, let's get into some of the news stories that's happened since we've been gone. And I know this has come across your radar. Zuffa boxing is official now. Dana White and TKO and Turkey Al-Sheikh have come to terms with a deal with Zuffa Boxing. It's official, something Dana White's been talking about probably like the past decade or so. But they are set to go live in 2026, and they kind of played around with it with this past Canelo Crawford fight, but they're official and they're going to be on Paramount Plus along with the UFC. So what were y'all's first thoughts when y'all saw this deal finally announced? I'll start off with you, Admire.
Well, I mean, my first thought is probably a lot of other people's first thought is, what's the pay going to be like? I mean, you know, the big topic has always been fighter pay when it comes to UFC fighters versus boxers. Well, obviously, we know that boxers always get paid more. So are they going to bring boxers over and just keep paying on the same high price? Or are they going to try to lower the boxers' pay? Are they going to raise the UFC fighters' pay? Because you got to imagine, if they're going to be on the same network, you got to think that the viewership rate is probably going to be kind of similar. You know, boxing traditionally has had, you know, the bigger viewership, but in recent years, the way the boxing's kind of slowed down and UFC and MMA's grown, that kind of is leveled out. So to me, my first thought was it's a good thing, you know, because, you know, Zuffa and Dana White and that whole production type is good at what they do. But, you know, as long as the pay, I would hope, gets better for the UFC guys, you know, and the MMA side of it.
That is a good question. I hadn't read any stories about the pay structure, but like I said, they just threw a fight with Canelo and Crawford, and Canelo got 100 million. I think Crawford only got like 10 million or so, 20 million.
I think he got 10 to show and 10 to win or something like that. He got like 10 or 20% as much as Canelo.
So now that you've set that precedent, how could you go back and dial that back now that you show that you can pay these fighters? I don't know if you've seen anything on your end, Steve.
Yeah, that's the question I was about to ask, because you know, boxing, they get considerably amount more money, but that's just going to raise the question, you know, when to pay for MMA fighters to raise up, especially if you start seeing millions. You know, MMA fighters are going to start asking questions, especially it's under the same banner, Zuffa. But I will say the benefit of being on Zuffa, it's almost like having a brand and it's attached to boxing now. I think people are willing to look at it more than what boxing promoters are doing outside of UFC. And we're like, I might hear it. Sometimes we might miss a fight that's going on under the radar, but MMA fans, to see a boxing match coming up, we're more likely to see it more than individualized promotion, I guess. I would explain that. Maybe it might come up on their UFC channel. You might see it more. I think it's getting a lot rarer, unless it's a big boxing fight, to catch who's fighting lately.
So Zuffa Boxing is the promoter. That's one thing Anaka's been on, like the old school way of boxing, is people think it's too many sanctioning bodies, too many different promoters. You got PBC out there. You got Golden Boy out there. You got Top Rank out there. But now you got Zuffa Boxing, and they're in bed with Turkey Al-Sheikh. From what Dana White says, the only sanctioning promotion the only sanctioning body that they're going to be recognizing is the ring. So if you're signed under Zuffa Boxing and under their promotion, the only thing you can fight for are the ring titles. So that's more uniformity, which, like, people praise UFC, you know, they make the fighters fight the fight that they want to. But, you know, we've seen UFC kind of monopolize the MMA game. So do you think Zuffa Boxing is going to be a good thing for the sport or a bad thing for the sport? And like we talked about as well, the fighter pay, we don't know how that's going to be structured. What do you think, Admire?
If they do the pay right, then I think it legitimizes it, because I don't think you see how Dana White handles the fights with the MMA side of it. I say 99% of the time he makes the best fight the best. He makes the fights that the fans want to see, as long as they also make sense, and it's the best fighting the best. If he handles it that way with the boxing side of it, then it's going to be great because, how many times have we talked about Mayweather Pacquiao being too late? That fight never happened because of too many sanctioning bodies and too many different promoters and that, and how many other fights didn't happen because of that? How many people say this guy ducked this guy won't fight this guy? And it's always just because of a promotion thing and who wants to be the A side, the B side, and just things not lining up. If you can get everybody over under that umbrella, then it's a great thing. But that's going to be the thing. You're still going to have a lot of different fighters under those other promotions for a while. But if Zuffa can prove to be a good thing, have the pay, good promotion, and they can start pulling other fighters away, it's going to be good. It's going to be real good, but it's going to take time to build up. So I think the Canelo Crawford fight was a good way to, introduce that, burst onto the scene. And they just got to keep building and making it a good thing. And, not have any bad press or bad, experiences with fighters, within the first couple years to, scare other potential fighters from coming over.
Okay. You make some good points. But one thing I want to ask you, Steve, is Dana White says it's going to be 2 years before you start to notice the big difference as far as Zuffa boxing. And he kind of compared it to like the past 25 years at UFC. 2 years, that's not that long. I don't even know what he's being vague with that comment. He says 2 years before you know the difference. I don't even know what he means by that, but I'm guessing, do you think it's going to make an impact short term as far as the boxing landscape in the grand scheme of things, Steve?
I think so. There's pros and cons what people think the possibilities are. But I can say the pros are Dana doesn't play about not taking opportunities of championships when told, and will go on to the next person for opportunity. And I think that's good for boxing because we've been seeing the opposite of that for years. I think it'll be a good thing for that matter. And I think it's more of what people are worried about is the financial part. But I can see all opportunity with the, actual doing and the events of boxing.
And I mean, to go back to kind of what I was saying, I was talking about the best fight and the best, but think about the tail end of that or the opposite side of that. You no longer will have these number 10 ranked guys padding their resume, going and fighting unranked tomato cans 5 fights in a row just to keep building up their record and stuff like that. Instead, that number 10 guy, he's going to have to be fighting the number 9 guy. And you know what I mean?
So to finish the quote that he said, and I get your thoughts since Admire, he said, "Here we are now, and over the next 2 years, I will put my head down and I will grind and start to implement my vision." He sounds like almost like a evil boss on like a James Bond movie. What does he mean by that?
Just he knows that he's to me, it sounds like he knows that he's the new guy going into the boxing world, that he's just going to have to go out there and kind of learn from his mistakes. He's probably going to make some mistakes along the way because he's new to the boxing part of it, but he's just going to do it his way and make it happen.
Okay, so to look at all sides of things, and UFC and MMA in general, we've never seen fighters get paid like an astronomical amount of money, but we've already seen that precedent been set in boxing. So if I'm a boxer, top tier A1 boxer, and I see what they pay in UFC, and like we said, we don't know if they have to scale that back now that they got this official deal, and I can sign with PBC and Top Rank and get paid $50-100 million. Like, what's gonna make me want to sign with Zuffa boxing? It's good and it's fine and dandy that we see the best fights if they're gonna be trying to make the best fights, but that's not gonna help my pockets out. So what's going to be the incentive to sign with Zuffa Boxing and Admire if I'm a boxer?
I mean, I imagine all boxers are, looking at the pay. That's the pay is going to be the only thing. If Zuffa can't match the pay of everybody else, then they will go somewhere else. That's going to be the only thing making them. Now, if Zuffa and other companies are going to be even, they're going to have to do something different. They're going to have to do something different with their marketing, and I think that's probably where Zuffa is going to be different than others. If you look at the ones you've mentioned, like Top Rank, Golden Boy, those they've been around a while, but they are also ran by older, I'll say older guys. I think Zuffa is kind of ran by a younger, more millennial type. So I think that you'll see Zuffa do better with promoting fighters in a way that's more modern. So I think that if you have, Zuffa offering a fighter this much, you have another company offering the fighter the same amount, I think Zuffa is going to be able to pull the fighter if they promote them a certain way. I think that Zuffa can use just new marketing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That'd be a good way to like get them more on the mainstream eye if they could promote them differently. But I don't care how are you promoting me if the other side of the table is gonna give me 100 million and y'all only gonna give me 10 or 5 to show, then hey, I'd rather be rich than famous,
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. The pay's got to be very close. Like it can't be 100 million, 10 million. I mean there's nothing for them to even think about. But if it's 100 million or 90 million with good promotion, I think that they might think about the 90 million in good promotion, because that good promotion can lead to, it can get made up in other ways, social media deals, sponsorships, because like I was said earlier, I think MMA has grown a lot more than boxing has over the last 10, 20 years. So I think that MMA and UFC can get boxers more sponsorships. I think that boxing's kind of gone stagnant when it comes to sponsorships and media deals and things like that. So I think that's what Zuffa is going to get the upper hand in, is bringing them, the boxers more exposure and more opportunity.
So say that Zuffa, they can't pay 100 million, but they're paying these boxers 40 to 50 million. Their own, I don't know how the ownership is owned, but from the most part, it seems like it's all under this TKO banner. I might be wrong because I know Turkey Al-Sheikh is in it, but for the most part, they're all one big family, I guess, with the TKO family. On the MMA side of things, if I'm looking at it, like y'all paying these fighters 40, 50 million, you don't think it might have like a trickle down effect to like the MMA side of things being like, how come we not getting paid like that?
They're going to have to. They're going to have to bump up the pay of the MMA fighter side as well, because I mean it's the same. Well, okay. Let me back up a little bit. They would have to look at the analytics of it, because then you kind of get into the same discussion of NBA, WNBA, same sport, same everything, except look at the viewership. You know what I mean? NBA is pulling big numbers viewership wise, WNBA is not. So then you would have to look at, is the boxing pulling in more viewership than the MMA part? If it is, then you can pay the boxers more and MMA less. But if MMA is pulling same numbers, then you really have to pay them the same. And there's really no other way around it. The MMA guys would have to go on strike, or this is where you have to form that union that they've talked about before to get the equal pay, because there's really no other way they can justify paying the boxers more if your viewership is the same.
What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the it'll be I think the first payout is going to cause controversy. It's because the way you look at it, Zuffa was built by MMA. just to give boxers a bigger opportunity and pay for them to get less. I'm pretty sure that money to even start off money transactions was built by the MMA fighters. So that first pay, I mean, we're talking about 40 million and shit. You talk about 10 million between those fighters. Probably 10 million can raise a lot of pockets, and with just within the UFC roster right now. Let alone we're talking about 40 million the first fight, you know. And I know money can be generated when these first contracts of the boxing start. But I mean, if you can start something off, why can't you make? And I see Admire's situation pulling in views more to get more money, but then again, it's just gonna show the first transaction of what somebody's gonna get paid. Those fighters, definitely, the MMA is gonna feel disrespected.
Okay, so the kind of play devil's advocate, and Admire, you brought it up. If the MMA viewership is getting more than the boxing side of things, then that would be, you know, the fighters' justification for wanting to get paid more. But what if the owners and the higher ups, you know, give it like a counter response to it and be like, okay, we have a lot more fighters on the UFC roster than we do under this Zuffa boxing. So, I mean, the numbers don't make sense. We can't pay y'all. Y'all got more, too many fighters on this side of things. So what do you even say to that?
I mean, if I'm a fighter, I say that's not my problem. You know, like that's not my problem at all that you got too many employees over here and not enough over here. We're getting the same viewership. We're earning you more money with our views over here. Like, cut the fat or something. Like you got to figure it out.
And then when they cut the fat, then they're like, all right, then they cut the UFC roster in half.
I mean, there's got to be a structured way to do it. I mean, if 1 million views brings $1 million divided by 10 fighters, that's 100,000 each. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to run all the math, but you know, maybe you couldn't pay them as much, but they should still get more because there's still more revenue by the views.
Me myself, I hate to see people lose jobs, but I'm all about cutting the roster size down. But they're not going to do that because I think they have to put a certain amount of fights on with this damn deal. Less is more to me. I wouldn't mind if they would cut some of these bullshit cards down and
do quality over quantity.
Yeah, but they're not, because this deal, they got to put them on a bunch of fights. But if you had a smaller roster, you could pay the fighters more, but that's not going to happen because they got this guaranteed money. It's definitely an interesting scenario to see how it plays out as far as pay. We all agree that they need to pay the fighters more, but I could just see them using that excuse that this roster size, we can't pay these fighters for it, which is that's nasty work. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Like Dana White says, he has his vision over the next 2 years. But another side of things is, I want to get y'all's opinion on this. You already have fighters putting their hats in the middle of the ring to try to get some of these Zuffa boxing matches, and not necessarily from the traditional box world. Dustin Poirier wants Nate Diaz in Zuffa boxing. He said that's the only fight he'll come back for is to take on Nate Diaz. So I'll let you kick it off, Steve. You think that Zuffa should go the traditional route and build like credible fighters, or you think they should go down like almost like the circus fight and let some of these retired MMA fighters, you know, fight in the organization?
It might go, quite honestly, it might be half and half. You know, he hasn't really told us the module or the first card, you know, is gonna really show where his ideas, where he's going with this promotion. But I can see him grabbing names that are still popular to raise and grab as far as attention. That would definitely do it. I think people would like to see just for a boxing platform, Nate and Poirier. But I think also serious prospects coming up to maybe be invited on both sides of the water. You know, you have these fighters that have popularity that may not be a boxer but dabble into it, and then you might have somebody from the boxing realm call somebody out, and like Nate said, you took everything I worked for. You know, seeing a boxer saying that and beat this MMA fighter that, like you said, Poirier and Nate fighting, that might take offense to a boxer to create a storyline. So I don't know if they're way they're going for it. Hopefully not little WWE, not faking a fight part, but just, you know, promoting storylines. It might go that way. I'm not too sure.
What do you think? Should they go the traditional route or the circus fight route?
I hope they go the traditional route and make it as legit as possible. Dana White, back in the day, I mean, he used to really talk about a lot of boxing and talk about how he was a serious boxing fan. So I hope that he would want to keep his boxing promotion clean and, you know, really take it serious and just be like, I don't want MMA guys that aren't boxers over here crowding it up. I don't want to rank a guy that's not really going to be a true boxer over here in my promotion. You know, I don't want Dustin Poirier coming over here and boxing my promotion, and I'm going to automatically rank him at number 5 in my promotion when I know in the real world he would get just smoked, you know, in a boxing match. So I hope they just take the traditional route and, you know, do it right. You know, no circus fights, hopefully. And, you know, and that could be possibly what they're doing is making it strictly for circus fights. They might be doing that to capitalize on any time an MMA fighter calls out a boxer or a boxer calls out an MMA fighter, they're making the match happen right away, you know, so they could do it. You know, this might be what they're doing. Who knows?
I'm with you. I don't want to see any damn circus fights. Let that be for something else. Especially when you're first trying to establish yourself and be a legitimate organization or not sanctioning body, but a promoter. You gotta, you know, build it up and get legit fights going on because, you know, it'll pop a rating just for people who are curious. But then when they see you keep putting on bullshit fights, then that viewership will dwindle away and people will stop caring if it's not legitimate. So you got to try your best to get the cream of the cream, the creme de la creme, so to speak, and get the best fighters in there. And maybe somewhere down the line, you may throw in one thing here or there, like a Poirier. But not even like, I don't want to see a Poirier and a Diaz go into it. If you want to do like something like that, I want to see them go against a legitimate boxer. Like, why put on 2 novice boxers in there if you're gonna throw it into this organization you're building up? And I don't want to see anything.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do a circus fight, put Jake Paul in there because at least then I know you're doing it for the money and the ratings.
Yeah, because, you know, in the MMA world, Poirier, Diaz has a little bit of crossover appeal just because Conor gave him a rub. But Poirier, he's like of course, hardcore MMA fans know him, and a few casual sports fans know him, but he's not like embedded in the pop culture. So like, what are you doing him and Diaz for?
Yeah, he's not known as a boxer.
Yeah, so yeah, I think they should go the legitimate route, but it's gonna be interesting to see how Zuffa Boxer shakes out, because like I said, this has been Dana's pet project for the past 10 years. He's been trying to get off the ground, and now it's finally come to fruition. So I just want to see good fights. So however it shakes out, I just wanted the best result to come out as far as legitimate fights being made. But before we get into the fights this weekend, there's one more other story. I saw the story, but once y'all brought it to my attention, I went to go actually watch the video. Wanderlei Silva, he was in an exhibition boxing match against Alcilio Freitas. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Acelino Freitas. He got docked a bunch of points from doing headbutts, and he finally got disqualified from doing the headbutts. And I don't even know what is Wanderlei Silva doing at this point. I'm guessing he may be needing the money, but the story happened after the fight. A big brawl happened, I guess, because of the headbutts he was doing, and a big melee happened, and somebody a part of Fritz's team went in there and cold clocked and knocked out Wanderlei Silva, and they found out it was actually Fritz's son that did it. So I'm guessing his son has some boxing background. According to Bloody Elbow, his son does have some combat sports background, and cold clocked him out in a tuxedo. So what were y'all thoughts when y'all first saw this melee happening? I'll start off with you, Admire.
Yeah, it was wild, man. I was just scrolling TikTok and it popped up, and I was like, the first video I see was like really far back, and you couldn't really tell it was him. I, seeing the name on the description of the title, and I was like, is that him? And then other videos came out, and it was a lot closer. I was like, holy shit, he got knocked out by a guy in a tuxedo. And yeah, he got hit hard. What's even worse, if you got time later, check it out. Wanderlei Silva, he made a video from his car the next day talking about it. And I mean, his eye is swollen, dude. I mean, it is bad. Broken nose. I mean, looks like he's got a shattered orbital. I mean, it reminds me of GSP Koscheck. You know how Koscheck's eye looked after that. His eye's pretty bad. So yeah, Wanderlei Silva is still getting knocked out, and check out Chael Sonnen's tweets about it when you have time as well.
What did Chael Sonnen say?
Chael Sonnen said something. He was talking to the guy that knocked out Wanderlei Silva. Said nobody gets to make him look like a fool except for me.
Hey, Chael Sonnen is the king of petty. He doesn't forget. From the long-standing beef dated back to the Brazil tough, where he said, "I can't let you get this close." Did he say something like that? I can't let you get close.
Yeah, he said, "I can't let you get close."
And took him down.
Steve,
what were your thoughts on this little melee that happened?
I was like, well, if Wanderlei didn't have brain damage before, he does now. He has a lot of knockouts himself where he's been knocked out and had those going backwards, head recoil, smacking the floor type of knockouts. I don't know, but a lot of people gave him flack. I mean, they say he's been a dirty fighter all through his career, kind of nasty training with, and obviously we saw those headbutts, and not only that, he put himself into the crowd to get knocked out like that, to where sometimes you even see the fighters go back in their corner. Floyd did that when they jumped in the ring and got in the corner. You can get cold cocked pretty easy in a brawl, and that's what happened. And if you don't take yourself professionally, I mean, you end up, if it ain't about the money, which he introduced himself into the crowd to get hit. I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah, it's a mess, and I don't even know what Silva's doing it at this point, because like you said, fighting in Pride and UFC, he's taking enough brain damage, and I don't know if he's going to be in good shape when he gets older. But these brawls don't happen often, but we've seen it happen in Nashville and Strike Force with Diaz and his crew. You saw it with Conor, Habib, and now this. Do you think they should start putting some type of protocol with these fighters so their teams don't fight, Admire?
I don't know. Man, it's crazy. I was trying to see if he had any other fights, but that was his first thing he did. So I don't know. Yeah, that was his first exhibition boxing record. So I don't think he should really be allowed to do anything. I mean, especially after his knockouts and stuff. He left the UFC on a TKO, or he left Bellator on a TKO from Rampage Jackson, but he had quite a few, knockout losses over the years.
Just curious, didn't he have a time to where he got banned and then they reinstated him for some, I don't know if it was drugs, steroids, or
So that sounds about right as far as steroids.
Yeah, I
What,
think
what,
they paid him because I think they're going to ban him for life. I guess they thought that was too harsh.
what, didn't something happen like that to Rusmes Filimeras?
Oh, Paul
Paul
Harris.
Mars,
Yeah, Polaris.
yeah, he kept on cranking submissions when.
Then he,
Yeah, he wouldn't let go of submissions,
Then
so
he
he
get
got like a lifetime ban, I think.
yeah, then he get banned from somewhere.
Mhm. At least the
But
UFC got banned.
I don't know if that happened to Wanderlei as well. I don't know, but as far as like these brawls that sometimes happen, and it didn't end up in a brawl, but even with the fight with the fight nerds with the fight that happened at UFC, the fight night, the past couple weekends, it was Lopez. He was getting back into it, but it didn't. Luckily, it didn't go to blows. But should there be more security? I guess at the end of these fights, Admire, that prevents stuff like this from happening.
I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it doesn't happen that as often. I mean, it happens every once in a while, but it happens not that much. And I don't think it's necessary. I mean, sometimes it's fun, to have them, not when they come to like crazy blows and him getting knocked out like that, but sometimes just seeing them kind of mix it up a little bit is fun. As long as nobody gets hurt too bad.
But if I'm Silva, like I might try to call me a bitch, but y'all are they didn't protect me. Y'all are negligent. I'm suing this promotion. I got fucked up, and now I look like a bitch.
Yeah, true. yeah. I guess. I mean, because in boxing, I mean, usually there's tons of people there to keep them separate in boxing.
Yeah, I mean, this was an exhibition boxing match, but this like low level whatever organization that put it on, and I just got done in a grueling fight, even though I was a dickhead and got disqualified, but I wasn't expecting to get attacked after the fight. He might have a case on his hand for negligence on the whoever threw this boxing match, and they probably threw all of their coins in this hat to even get him, so they probably won't even be existing after this anyway. So I don't know how much money we get, but don't you see some liability on their end, Steve?
Yeah, but what I thought is maybe there needs to be an example each generation. Because I'm getting older, and then if you get around somebody young enough, they might not even know certain eras of UFC where I saw regularly. It's younger, stamped in my mind. So, for example, they might not remember a Paul Daly. And you got young generation fighters, you might skip over Paul Daly to where he was used as an example, at least in my generation, and say, oh, that's a no-no. You're getting kicked off. You know what I'm saying? The promotion automatically. And I think that hasn't happened, or people, the echo still rings of, oh, man, you don't want to do that, to where maybe slowly it's disappearing. Fighters think they can swing on somebody after the fight. And that's where another example needs to happen, because I think people fear examples. And it hasn't happened in a while. And the last time it has happened, I would say it was forgiven. And that was the Khabib, jumping out, the whole Connor situation. But I think the last example of that was Paul Daly hitting Josh Koscheck, I believe.
Yeah, man, he got banned. He got banned for life. Dana White was not happy.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a theme that Dana White picks and chooses what pisses him off the most. And for some reason that pissed him off, but he was fine and dandy with the Conor McGregor and Khabib whole situation. But yeah, that's Dana White for you, Uncle Dana for you. But yeah, it's not a good look, even though we are entertained on our end. But like, yeah, you don't want to see somebody get fucked up like that. Like Amai said, his face looked like mincemeat afterwards. So hopefully Silva has a speedy recovery and he just needs to retire for good, because we don't need to see Wanderlei Silva fighting in the year of our Lord 2025. But fellas, let's get to all of this fighting that we have this weekend. And It's been a little minute since we covered some bare-knuckle, but we like to cover the big fights that happening, and a pretty entertaining one is going down in New York, New Jersey, over on the East Coast. The headliner is Perry and Stevens. There's a lot of fights in this card. We're not going to go through all of these fights, but we're going to go through the last 3 fights on this card, and starting off with looks like to be a grudge match in the women's. It's not even in they're fighting at 135, but it's not for a title because you got your flyweight champion Kristen Fiera versus Jessica Borga, who's your featherweight champion, and this is for the symbolic Queen of Violence Championship. What are your thoughts on the build-up to this one? I'll let you kick it off, Amir.
Yeah, man, you sent me them videos. These girls do not like each other. If they're gonna back up the way they talk to each other, this is gonna be a violent fucking fight, dude. Like, they say some dirty shit to each other. If anybody's interested, go just check out some of their pre-fight talk. It's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, they talk about each other drinking bodily fluids, and they go that route. Yeah, this should be a violent one. What are your thoughts on the build up to this one, Steve? Me and you've been looking at this for the past couple months or so, talking about this.
Well, I thought it was hilarious, and you sent me that clip. The automatic joke went to my head. I was like, man, those are some low blows. No point intended. What she said to the girl. If y'all haven't seen the video, y'all get my joke. But yeah, those are some low blows, and that's what keeps the interest in a fight. That actually made me want to actually tune into that fight, make sure I see it. So I bet you there's going to be some animosity behind those punches. I think the girl took it seriously, and I think the other girl was very serious when she said it. So that's what I like about it.
So I've seen more Kristen Fierre's fights than Jessica Borga, but Jessica Borga is the bigger fighter coming into this one. And who you got to win this one? Who's going to be your pick?
I think I'm gonna go with Borga on this one.
You said this is off the record, but you said Fiera had a little pump look to her, so you don't think
well, the only reason I'm going with Borga is I think she's more composed. She's holding it more together. I think Fiera's coming in there just a little too hot, a little too angry. I think she's gonna get a little too emotional coming into it.
Okay, so Admire's got Borga on this one, and yeah, we're gonna count these towards our yearly end. So Admire's got and you got Borga in this one.
I got Borga.
Who you got, Steve?
Hard to say. In saying that maybe one was more than the other out of their element, I could say the one who made the comments, which is what I know their faces and not their names. The one that was saying the insults, what's her name?
That's Fiera.
And the other girl, she got bored. She got upset by those insults. So I can say they both have animosity behind each other. But as far as choice, which one was the bigger one? You say coming in?
Borga's bigger. She's the featherweight champion. Yeah.
I have to go with that.
So you're going with Borga as well. I think I'll be the one different. I think I'll go Fiera in this one. I've seen her fight more. I've seen I think I've seen one Borga's fight, but I've seen more Fiera's fight. She's violent. But coming up 2 weight classes, that's nothing to sneeze at. So they have weight classes for a reason. So I wouldn't be surprised if Borga pulled it off. But I think I'm gonna go with Fiera in this one. Moving right along, the co-main event in this one, we see a fighter that we're familiar with, Frankie Edgar's, coming out of retirement to face a Jimmy Rivera in the featherweight division. What are your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Yeah. Frankie Edgar, he's another one of them fighters that I don't know if he should really be back, man. He's taken some losses in his career. He's always been one of my favorite fighters. I just like his attitude. Him and Gray Maynard too, one of my favorite fights ever. Um, I guess, excited to see him. I don't like that he's back, but I guess that he's back. I guess I got to be excited to see him. Of course, I don't think they're going to bring him in and let him get beat up, especially on his first fight. So they got him going against a guy that's 2-2, one draw. Yeah, this is going to be easy for Frankie Edgar. He'll probably just blow right through this guy.
You think even though this is his first bare knuckle fight, you think he's just gonna blow right by him?
Yeah, I mean, Frankie Edgar's a big name. They're bringing him in. They're not going to let him lose. They're going to try to make him a poster boy. He's got a big name.
Yeah, but still, like, we've seen the damage that BKFC does and bare knuckle in general. Like, this ain't for the faint of heart. So you don't think he might, pause for pause once he gets hit by that first bare knuckle in his face?
I think he'll be all right. I mean, he's been punched. I mean, this might be contradictory, but he's been punched a lot. So I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, but no gloves is different. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Who you got in this one, Steve?
Well, towards the latter of his career, Frankie Edgar hasn't impressed me. And even in the beginning, although he may have had some stuns and people with some punches, I can't remember any significance in his latter of his career of showing, transitioning MMA boxing skills into boxing. Certain people have it to where it makes sense. I feel like more Jimmy Rivera. I remember he was, I think, a pretty big, what was his featherweight, if I'm not mistaken. And
I think Jimmy fought at featherweight mostly.
And he was a pretty stocky, muscular featherweight, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I've seen him throw more punches as far as boxing style in MMA than Frankie Edgar.
Okay. I'm mistaken. He fought a lot at bantamweight. He did have a featherweight fight against Stamen, but most of it was bantamweight. He fought Sterling, Faber, Marlon Moraes. So he's mainly a bantamweight.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Rivera had more of a, so to speak, boxing career in MMA than Frankie. So I'm leaning towards Jimmy Rivera more.
And Jimmy Rivera's had a few. He's had a lot of BKFC. I didn't realize how long he's been out of UFC for. This will be his fifth BKFC fight. He's pretty much 500. He has a draw, 2 losses, and 2 wins, and no finishes though. But he's got finished one. Jeremy Stevens, who we'll be talking about a little bit, finished him. Damn, I think I might be with you, Steve. I think Rivera, just because he has the reps in there, I think he might get the win on this. So
yeah, and Frankie Edgar, I forgot he went out on 3 knockouts.
Yeah, so that chin is loose, but hey, Admire might pull more ahead of us if he hits on this one. But me and Steve got Rivera on this one. But let's move on to the main event in this one, fellas. In the welterweight division, one of Admire's favorite guys, Mike Perry, taking on little heathen Jeremy Stevens. What are your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Man, I was thinking about this one all day, thinking about what my pick was going to be. This one's tough, man, because Mike Perry, he's, built for this. This is his sport. He's been kind of the king since this whole bare knuckle started. He's hard to bet against when it comes to this, but Jeremy Stevens, he's challenging for a reason. He's kind of built for this too. They both kind of had their same path in the UFC. They not the best over there, both heavy-handed. I'm gonna go Jeremy Stevens.
Really? Okay. Any particular reason?
Well, I've always been a Jeremy Stevens fan just because he's got heavy hands. Every time he throws something, he just puts everything behind it. He gives his all. Never been the best fighter, but just heavy-handed. And, Dominic Cruz even talks about just Jeremy Stevens being one of the most powerful punchers that gets in there. So I think that it's going to be the toughest fight for Mike Perry that he's had so far.
So Jeremy Stevens, he went on a hell of a losing streak before he got cut from the UFC. He had a no contest in there with an eye poke, but before that, if you don't count that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 losses in a row. He had a win in there, lost another one. So he went 1-7 before he got cut. But then remember they brought him back this year, but then he lost again. So I don't even know if he's still with UFC, because that's interesting that they brought him back. This past May, and he lost to Mason Jones in that Iowa card. So is he? I don't know if that might have been a one-off in UFC, but now he's back in BKFC. But he seems to take in like a fish to water to this BKFC situation, because he's 3-0 in BKFC, and he beat Eddie Alvarez. I remember watching that fight, and it was brutal. And then he beat Jimmy Rivera, who we talked about earlier, and some guy named Bobby Taylor. So, but like you said, Mike Perry is built for this. So, what are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
I'm gonna have to go with Mike Perry just because he's fought those names. We're forgetting about it. I almost forgot about Michael Venom Page, and he got through that fight pretty good, able to take punches. Not saying in bare-knuckle, but I've seen Jeremy compromise as far as chin, and I haven't for real seen Mike Perry hurt so too bad. What is his last fight? He looked bad. Was it Jake Paul?
Yeah, Jake Paul fucked him up.
But other than that, I think he's, hasn't took too much damage, and I think has the natural bigger body to take some of those punches. So I'm gonna have to go with Mike Perry.
Yeah, and Mike Perry's undefeated in bare-knuckle as well. They both have that common opponent, Eddie Alvarez, and Perry stopped Eddie Alvarez, and Thiago Alves, he beat him in Knucklebania in 2024. Luke Rockhold, and like you said, MVP as well. So he's got a resume as far as the bare-knuckle goes. So I think I'm gonna go towards Perry too, just because I think he's bigger. He's the bigger fighter than Stevens, and I think he'll eventually get him out of there. These fights don't go the distance for the most part. So me and Steve, we got Perry, and Admire has Jeremy Stevens. So this is, like I said, this is an opportunity for Admire to pull further ahead, or for us to catch up as far as these yearly records go. But let's move on to the MMA side of things, fellas. Going down in Las Vegas, and this is an odd time for them to have a Vegas fight. This is in October. UFC 320, Ankalaev and Pierre 2. And before we get to the main card, let's run through these early prelims. And going down in the women's flyweight, we have Veronica Hardy facing Brogan Walker. Welterweight division, we got Ramiz Brahimaj versus Austin Vanderford. Welterweight division, we got Kunhel Soriano versus Nikolai Veretennikov. Bantamweight division, we got Patchy Mix all the way down the early prelims versus Jakub Wiklas. And then in the women bantamweight division, we got Macy Chazon versus Yana Santos. Will y'all be tuned in for some of these early prelim fights?
I don't know if I will. I might turn it on. I had to look that up. I was like, Patchy Mix all the way down there on the early prelims.
Yeah. Is this UFC trying to little bro him just because he was high up on another promotion?
Patchy Mix was just on the main card of UFC 316.
Yeah, but they're like, all right, we gave you a chance. You're a little Bellator guy, and you gave you a chance. You lost. Now you get relegated to the early prelims.
That's wild. Yeah, I guess. I guess you're right. I mean, you get knocked all the way down. That's crazy. Yeah, I'll turn it on in the background. Probably. I'll probably catch that.
What about you, Steve? Any of these fights pique your interest?
Yeah, that's the only one I'll be interested in as far as the early prelims.
I'm kind of curious to see what Veronica Hardy does. You know, she's been a mainstay in the UFC for a while now, and I don't know if y'all have heard her any of her interviews lately, but like if I'm not mistaken, she had a heavy Brazilian accent when she first got into it, back when she was known as Veronica Macedo. But you know, she's married to Dan Hardy, so I'm guessing he's rubbed off on her. She almost sounds like she's British now, which is crazy. So I'll probably be tuning in for that. And I'm kind of curious to see what Macy Chazon does. I think she challenge for a title previously. I don't know. She might have been close to it, but
I was gonna say, yeah, probably that fight too. Macy's always fun to watch.
So yeah, if I'm not doing anything, which I don't think I finally have a weekend where I'm not doing really anything, I probably will tune into these early prelims. But moving on to the prelims that are going on ESPN News, it's only 3 fights announced for this, so I'm guessing somebody had to have pulled out if they only have 3 fights on the early prelims. So who knows who got injured? Featherweight division, we got Daniel Santos versus Yu Ju Song. Bantamweight division, we got Chris Gutierrez versus Fareed Basharat, and the featured fight on these prelims in the middleweight division, we got Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Muniz. Any of these fights pique your interest, Admire?
Not really. You know, not really.
Edmund is always an interesting prospect, though.
Yeah, I mean that was all right, but it's like you got more star power on the early prelims than the prelims.
Yeah, it seems like politics are going on in regard to that, but that's something that's just speculative. But yeah, you might be right. But any of these pique your interest, Steve?
Maybe Chris Gutierrez, because I just remember some of his past fights. Edmund Shabazian also maybe, but not too much hype to watch him. But I might be able to if I'm sitting down and just watching the card.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have much going on, so I probably will have these on. So hopefully we'll see some bangers out of these. But let's move to the main card, fellas. The curtain jerker, this one in the middleweight division. We got Abuz Magomedov versus Joe Pyfer. What are your thoughts on this one, Aaron?
This is a good one. I can't remember who Pyfer just fought. Didn't he just fight somebody like Gastelum or something like that?
Yeah, he fought that elk. He fought Kevin Gastelum, and he won. It's 316. So that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, I was gonna say I knew he fought recently, and I think he looked really good. Yeah, this should be a pretty decent fight. Pretty evenly matched. I think they're both about the same height, 6'2" or something. Yeah, I think Pyfer, that's a good turnaround for him, and he looks really good. What was Magomedov's last fight? Wasn't his was against Michelle or something, wasn't it?
Pierre, yeah. Michelle Pierre.
Yeah.
And
wow, man.
He won.
Yeah, so they fought about the same level. Yeah. Give me Magomedov on this one, just because he beat my boy Michelle.
So Admire has Magomedov. What are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
I think I'll go with Pfeiffer. He had one mishap loss against Hermanson, but it looks like he's been winning before that and winning after that loss. So I think he might be focused, especially after getting, although Gaslam is getting a little washed up. He won against that veteran, so I'm gonna have to go with Pfeiffer.
Oh, and I didn't give the fight odds.
Yeah, what are the odds on this one?
Pfeiffer is a minus 265 favorite. Magomedov plus 215 underdog.
So it's pretty much kind of basically a pick 'em.
Nah, minus 265 favorite.
Oh, you said minus 260? I thought you said minus 160.
Nah, minus 265 for Pfeiffer, plus 215
Really?
for Magomedov.
Yeah, that's so Pfeiffer's a pretty
big favorite. I didn't realize it was that big.
I don't know what is they must be seeing something that we aren't seeing. Because I was gonna go with Magomedov till you said that. And I think I gotta go with Pfeiffer on this one. So like I said, this is either Admire's gonna pull ahead of us on this one, or we're gonna catch up. But moving right along, featherweight division, we got Josh Emmett versus Youssef Zalal. What are your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Well, the odds are really big spread on this one. Zalal is a minus 550 favorite. Josh Emmett is a plus 375 underdog. Big height advantage for Zalal on this one. It's really hard to go against the odds makers on this one. Josh Emmett coming off of a loss to Murphy. What did Zalal do last to get this commanding respect? Beat Calvin Kattar. Oh, he's on big old win streak. Yeah, got to go with the odds makers on this. Zalal.
Steve?
I was thinking Josh Emmett, but I'm looking at Zalal, and I think
the only quality win I'm seeing from Zalal is the Calvin Kattar fight.
yeah. I'm gonna have to go with Josh Emmett. I believe that he's been in the game long enough to find footwork to land that famous bomb he has. So I'll go with Josh Emmett.
I'm gonna go with Admire this one. I think Zalal has it. Josh Emmett, besides the Bryce Mitchell, he has not been on a favorable streak, but the quality though, like I was kind of contradicting myself. Look at the quality he was losing to. He lost to Ilya Topuria. We all know how he gets down. Aaron Murphy, he's on the rise. And then Yair Rodriguez, a former title contender. So those aren't bad losses as far as quality opponent.
True.
But I don't know. I'm gonna go with the hot hand right now. I'm gonna go with Zalal. So me and Admire have Zalal on this one. And Steve has Josh Emmett. Now we get into the meat of things, fellas. Light heavyweight division. We got Yuri Prochazka, former light heavyweight champion, going against former title contender Khalil Roundtree Jr. What are your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Man, this is gonna be a banger, dude. So start out with the odds. They got Jerry as a minus 175 favorite. Roundtree is a plus 145 underdog. So just a little bit of a spread on them. Man, this one is a hard one to pick. You got Roundtree, who he just beat Jamal Hill, lost to Alex, beat Anthony Smith. That fight with Alex was so good. I mean, I think he's done, one of the best fights against Alex, Jerry, I think his only losses recently was against Alex as well. I think he had 2 losses to Alex. Then he also beat Jamal Hill. Man, that fight with Roundtree was so good though. But Jerry's so explosive. I got to go with Jerry on this just because I think, the more explosive fighter. He has more tools.
Admire has Yuri Prochazka. What are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
I'm gonna have to go with Jerry, and I'm just going off their past fights with Pierre, Khalil. He had to worry about, that left hook. He doesn't have to worry about a devastating fighter with a big weapon like Pierre. But then again, Jerry thrives with people who don't have a prominent weapon like Pierre did, because of course he's gotten taken out by Pierre. I think he has the perfect style for Khalil Roundtree because, his kicking repertoire isn't as strong as Pierre. Just comparing losses. And I don't think Khalil had anything that Jerry hasn't seen below Pierre. And I think striking-wise, Khalil will be below Pierre, which means Jerry would survive his onslaught of you've seen it all when it comes to that. And we've been seeing him win, except with Pierre. So I can't count him out on this one. Plus, he looked. I wouldn't say Jamal is the type of striker as Khalil. I think Khalil is way better, but I think Jerry would still do good with Khalil.
Ah, man. This pick is strictly just so I could keep up with the pick in somewhat. So I get both of y'all's points. For some reason, I don't know. I just got a weird feeling, no type of analytical reason. For some reason, I think Khalil Roundtree is just gonna be able to muster up and get the win. So that's who my hardest kind of saying is Khalil will pull it out, but I think I'm gonna go with the odds makers and go with Yuri, maybe squeak out of the six. So I think I can see this going the distance for some reason. They're pretty much evenly matched as far as what the odds makers are saying. We know how Khalil went to Thailand and kind of revamped his game with it's probably 4 years ago now. So, and he had that, like you said, he had that all-out war with Piera, and he fell short. But I don't know, man. They're both strikers. Like, what if it ends up being a boring match? Like, on paper, it's supposed to be a banger, but what if I hope it doesn't end up boring, but if they get a little bit too strategic, but I'm just hoping that they'll just throw the kitchen sink in there and just go for it. I'm gonna go with Yuri, but for some reason, deep down, I think Khalil Roundtree might be able to break through and get this win. But all three of us are picking Yuri in this one. I'm like Am said, this should be a banger and in contention for fight of the night. But I'm excited to see how that goes down. Let's move right along to the co-main event, fellas. Your champion in the bantamweight division, we got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Corey Sandhagen. What are your thoughts on this one, Am?
Well, the odds on this one, Merab is a minus 400 favorite, and Sandhagen is a plus 300 underdog. I mean, this one's an easy pick, but I mean, it's more than just the odds. The reason I'm picking Merab, I mean, his significant strike accuracy is 59%. His takedown average is 5.84. So that's like 5.84 takedowns per fight. Like, that's crazy. His takedown accuracy is 35.66%. He has 4.31 significant strikes landed per minute. I mean, that's just crazy stats. I mean, 5.84 takedowns per fight. He just basically can do whatever he wants with you. I mean, he's just, insane. So, yeah, easy pick, Merab. I mean, this fight, it could be over first round if he wants it to.
Admire has morale. Thoughts, Steve?
Barad's been doing a great job with his career, especially as champion. Don't see too many flaws with him. The only way I can see Sandhagen winning is doing a rising knee on him on a takedown. You know, that comes few and far between. It's possible, but based off the skill, Marab.
Yeah, and who's Sandhagen? Who's his last fight against?
Sandhagen,
He's got to be on some sort of a streak. He fought
Figueiredo,
and it was a knee injury. So I remember after that, because Sandhagen was like, I'm the reason why it caused the knee injury because people were criticizing it, which I guess is a little bit true. Because a lot of people discredit like those freak injuries, but yeah, it might be on the other fighters' side of things that caused it. But who knows? I digress. He lost against Umar, then beat Font and Vera, Song Yudong. But I just think it's a mismatch. I think Marab's going to do whatever he wants to do and toss him around. We know how Marab gets down, and I think he's going to have a long reign. You know, you have to actually have the fight in the cage. Anything can happen. He could catch Marab, but we haven't seen it up to this point. Anybody be able to touch Marab. So I think it's going to be a dominant win. All three of us have Marab in this one. Almost a no-brainer, especially with those odds that you said, Admire. But let's move on to the main event, which is not quite a no-brainer. You got your light heavyweight champ, Magomed Ankalaev, in a rematch against the challenger, Alex Pereira. What are your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Yeah, they're running it back. Well, odds makers on this one have it Ankalaev minus 260 favorite, Pereira plus 210 underdog. I honestly see the fight going exactly the same again. Alex Pereira is claiming that he was only, I think, what he say, he was 30% for last fight. Claims he was injured. Said he was 30% last fight. I don't know, man. It's crazy that people that lose seem to only be the ones that were injured for fights. You know, you never hear a winner come out and say, yeah, I was injured. So I don't know, man. I think that he just got outworked. Ankalaev's great stand-up fighter. So I see it going the same exact way. I'm taking Ankalaev again.
I don't like when fighters make excuses. If you make an excuse when you win, that's fine, even though that's kind of weak too. But if you lose, I don't want to hear any damn excuses. Nobody forced you to fight. I know people get shit on for pulling out and you losing money, but if you're hurt, then pull out of the fight. I don't want to hear any excuses afterwards. You signed up to fight, so it is what it is. You gotta just take the L. But what are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going for Ankalaev. To even go up, landed a few of his own against the elite striker. Let alone Magomed has takedown skills. I think he's willing to, so to speak, study the last fight and come up with new skill plans to come up with a better plan for this fight. So I think Ankalaev has the better hand in this one, definitely.
I'm with you too. I'm picking Ankalaev in this one. From what I remember, we watched a lot of fights, so all of these fights kind of mix up in my head. But Ankalaev, he didn't really go for a lot of takedowns in the last fight, if I'm not mistaken. He just beat him basically standing up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, beat him at his own game.
So I think this time he might even try to mix it up a little more and maybe go for more takedowns. And I just see it, like I might say, it going pretty much the same way. But we all know Pierre has that great equalizer. So if he could catch Ankalaev, of course he could put him to sleep. And every time I hear about Pierre outside of the cage, he gets bigger and bigger every time. He walks around at 250. That's what I'm just being facetious, but yeah, they say he's walking around like 230, 220 something, but still, I don't know. Go ahead, Amar.
I'm just looking at their fight. Says Ankalaev landed 0 of 12 in their first fight, so he didn't land any of his takedowns.
Still beat him.
Yeah, still beat him. Said he had control 5 minutes and 42 seconds of the fight, so maybe he was on top of him that long. But yeah, this was a mostly standing up fight last time.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, Pierre has those highlight knockouts that we see get replayed off social media, but we've seen him lose that middleweight, get knocked down there. So it's not like he's some complete overall fighter. He has dangerous weapons on the feet, but you can neutralize those weapons if you have a well-rounded game, as we saw with Ankalaev. So I think Ankalaev gets the win, but like I said, I won't be surprised if Pierre was somehow able to catch him because we've seen him do it before. But I'm gonna go off and say Ankalaev wins this one. But that's why they have the fights in the cage. So we'll see what happens. But that brings us to the end of our preview and prediction shows. Gonna be a lot of fun fights this weekend within bare-knuckle and MMA. So we'll be glued to our couches and we'll be back next week to recap everything. So y'all got any plans on watching this fight? You gonna cook some? I know you got the Blackstone, you got the grill and all of that.
Yeah, I'll probably break out some ribeyes, probably cook something.
And we're doing it big. And I know you work on Saturdays, but you doing anything after you get off and watch these fights, Steve?
Most likely, nothing. Usually pay-per-views. I get done with work, settle down, and by the time the end of early prelims or the start of prelim, that's where I start zoning in.
Might break out a Bud Light Platinum and
I've been seeming to indulge lately, so I might even do that.
So, well, we'll be back next week to recap things, and make sure to follow us on social media. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube, run those numbers up, all that good stuff. But that'll do it for us here at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound. That was from the top. Heel hooking on one play.